I have a very limited Studio One recording software version where it's free, but when I say it gives you the bare minimum, it really gives you the bare minimum. More or less, my computer decided to die. The power supply finally crashed, and I've had that computer for years. It was just basically running Pro Tools and a few music software that I was using to create music, and I only broke it out whenever I was mixing. So I was in the middle of a mix, and Pro Tools decided to just stop working, or the computer decided to stop working. So now I don't have a computer where I could put Pro Tools in right away. Long story. I really wanted to get to something very quickly, and I wanted to use Studio One since I've had it before. I'll use it. But I forgot that it was only in the free version, and the free version only gives you a bare minimum of plugins. And when I say a bare minimum, I really mean bare minimum. You'll get just this basic channel strip and only 3 bands, nothing fancy, compressor, expander, your modes of, attacks, and a low cut. Not much you could do there. So this is the only EQ and compressor you have, period. So there's nothing else. So you're stuck with just this. And that's not very helpful, but at the same time, it really is. So long story short, without keeping you guys just waiting, this is what I'm going to use to do somewhat of the de-essing, and I'm going to go the actual long step. Now, the reason why I'm saying this may be important for people who may not either understand how de-essers work or even know why they should even use de-essers, or if you decided to use something like this, like I am, how do you get over with just these bare minimum plugins? So this is the only compressor and EQ you have, and these are the 2 tools you would use with another long step to actually get down to the S's or any consonants or T's and S's and SH's and stuff that may be a bit poking through the mix. And we don't want that. So I'm gonna go into what I'm doing right now. Let's listen to this. Let's get rid of this first. And let's look at this region here. This is the vocal right here in this highlighted section. And we're gonna turn on the automation. I'll get into how to do that later. But we're gonna listen to just this line.
And they first, but really they last.
And this line here.
Gas. And I'm missing the gas. And I'm missing the gas.
And
first, but really they last.
So now it doesn't sound so bad. It sounds actually pretty good. So because as you see, I automated the actual S area, this region.
First, but really they last.
So let's take off the automation and you'll hear the words coming sharper.
First, but really they last.
You hear that first and that last? That's annoying.
First, but really they last.
You could fade it out, and sometimes fading out actually does work, but it still doesn't fade out the actual consonants. So it may smooth it out a little too much depending on the fade. So before you fade, let's just actually play with the automation of the fader. And when you do that, you get a better control of how you could bring down those S's. Now, the other thing that's actually interesting, this is what a de-esser will do anyway. It actually listens for that frequency section. I'm not that geeked out, I don't know, but Google will tell me something. And so therefore, with that, that's what the de-esser is actually doing. It's a compressor that actually looks for the frequency of these consonants. So what you're doing is actually finding the consonants and then bringing it down a little bit so you could dress up how much of it is squash. We don't want it to peak out too much. So let's go back here again, turn that on, and you can see.
But really they last. But really they last.
Oh, we have to put the read on, sorry. So listen to it again without the automation.
But really they last.
And let's put the read back on. I don't know why I said touch.
But really they last. But really they last.
And if you look at closely onto the fader, it actually does drop down when those parts actually hit.
first, but really they last. You.
It's soft. We could do it some more if you think you need some more.
First, but really they last.
That one was not so bad by itself.
First, but really they last.
Now, the important thing is you don't want to do this too much in solo, so you want to really go back and forth to the music to make sure you didn't lose too much of it, so that way you can make sure you retained some of the character of the pronunciation of the word. So, wow, that took a lot to say. So let's go back to the music with it.
First, but really they last. You. First, but really they last. You trying to compete with the ski, but we teaching the class.
You hear that?
First, but really they last. You trying to compete with the ski, but we teaching the class.
So that class really sounded pretty good. It sounded like a de-esser to a degree.
Class.
And let's do it again.
With the ski, but we teaching the class.
And that word ski was also very interesting. So let's take this off again. Let's solo it.
With the ski, but we teaching the class.
And let's go back here.
With the they last. You trying to compete with the ski, but we teaching the class.
So it's very, very, very harsh. So without a de-esser, you won't be able to get this unless you do it this way. And I hope to avoid I hope nobody has to actually go this way to do it. But if you do, this is an easy way to do it. Also, within the EQ strips, as you can see here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it really probably should add another one for a 6-band equalizer, so to speak. I mean, these two make it 6. But I need a little bit of width because you can't dip into every section as you would if it were a graphic equalizer, or you could pick points to where you could pull down. So every other plugin acts as that other section that I need. I could be a little bit more creative by high passing in certain sections if I feel that it was just too much, but I didn't get too crazy with it. But this is the region here where some of that is pulled down. These regions here, it's brought up a little bit for character, but pulled down here that's the frequency. This just region, this general region. So if it were an actual, like I said, graphic equalizer, or one that had where I could sweep between points, this would be a lot easier. So I have to make believe the points are being swept. This is for those who are using Studio One and it's only free. Now, if you're using that, this is what you have to go through. If you bought it, you don't have to worry about any of that. It comes with a ton of in-stock plugins that are actually pretty good. Do I want to purchase Studio One? I really like Pro Tools, so I'm going to go and seek a bundle to get it with this computer, or do I wait to get a new computer to put Pro Tools in? This is what I'm thinking. But for the most part, this is what I'm doing here. You're sweeping in between points where if this were an actual one EQ, you could do that. But with this limited version, things sound very flat. So you have to color it. And how do you color it? This is what you have to do. You have to get creative. So, but within these regions here, other than that, probably just to pull it up, not to lose too much. But in these regions here that are dipped a little bit is where that frequency is, where you don't want too much of that character to come out. So this is with it on. Let's actually just take off the whole thing, and you could hear the consonants even poke out more.
They last. You trying to compete with the ski, but we teaching the class.
One more time.
They last. You trying to compete with the ski, but we teaching the class.
And with everything back on.
They last. You trying to compete with the ski, but we teaching the class.
Right, again, subtle, but what did most of the work is really the tugging of the fader on those sections.
They last. You trying to compete with the ski, but we teaching the class.
Especially on that word, ski. It's very harsh without it.
With the ski, but we teaching the with the ski, but we teaching the class. With the ski, but we teaching the class. With the ski, but we teaching the with the ski, but we teaching the class. With the ski, but we teaching the class.
So much better, so much better. So I could play around with this.
With the ski, but we teaching the class.
Let's go back a little bit.
And I'm messing the gas. These niggas be thinking they first, but really they last. You tryna compete with the ski, but we teaching the class.
That's pretty much what I'm doing here with this free version. I have a lot of work to do because now I have to really color it with some more things. But for the most part, that would have been easy if I was to use Logic even, or probably even Fruity Loops or FL Studio. I don't use either one of those. I'm really stuck in mixing in Pro Tools and or Studio One when I had the full version. I'm saving my money to buy Pro Tools because I don't think I really want to use Studio One as a mixing tool, even though it's really, really good. It gives you a lot of headroom. So, you know, when you're really clipping, that means it's really too loud. So you get a better judgment of how you could control certain things here in Studio One, and I like it. So I'm not downing Studio One, but your free version stinks. So, but I'm gonna use what I got, and that's pretty much it. This is how you could really do it here in Studio One. De-essing, it's an important tool. Whether you have it or not, sometimes it's even better to not necessarily go for that. Sometimes automations really help with that, so it lessens the amount of plugins you use in your mix if you're mixing in the box. So think about that. It's just a process to do it that way. Anyway, that's it. I think I'm done. Did I? I don't know if I did that well. Anyway.